What's good, family? Smash the like button and subscribe. Wow, Manny Pacquiao, Manny Pacman Pacquiao ain't even a bit finished. He ain't even a bit done. That's what we do know. He is playing all the psychological games right now. That's what he is playing, no doubt. This right here, this tactic right here, is an old school psychological, what would you call it? A psychological shtick, if you will, to try and lure out his opponent off his game plan. Now, a lot of the young bucks, this kind of psychological tactic is seldomly used, rarely used these days. Why? These days is a social media age where you just shout and scream. This is the old school tactic. What tactic is that, you ask? Well, what Pacquiao's doing here essentially is quite, in my opinion, this may be quite a long-term tactic as well, because we've heard a lot of the things Pacquiao's been saying. He's been saying that he's older and Spence is younger and Spence doesn't need Mayweather and all these things, and I believe this is all part of one strategy where essentially Pacquiao wants Errol Spence to meet him in the centre of the ring. Yeah? He's trying as best he can to not let, or to stop Errol Spence following the Mayweather way of doing things, which is the running way of doing things, essentially. I'm not going to make out Mayweather isn't technically great, but the fact of the matter is, he run. Bottom line, he didn't come to exchange, did he? And in fact, Mayweather, in the last half of his career, never came to exchange. However, Floyd Mayweather, at that point in time, he was older than Pacquiao. Well, he still is older than Pacquiao. He'll always be older than Pacquiao. So what Pacquiao's doing is, as much as he can, he's putting out there that he's older and Spence is younger, and well, he has been doing that for a long time, which means now he's switched the game up. Now he's saying things like, boom, the toe-to-toe is in my favour. What this does is, in my opinion, when Pacquiao's been telling Spence that, Spence, you're old enough to make your own decisions. Spence, you don't need Mayweather. Spence, you're the young hungry lion and I'm the old man. When that's been going into Spence's ears for all these months, and then he hears Manny Pacquiao 3 weeks out telling him, it wasn't direct either, this was an indirect. Pacquiao indirectly tells Errol Spence that the toe-to-toe favours me. What do you think that does to a young man like Errol Spence, who's been known as the, what do they call him? The iron sharpens iron, and they've given him a whole bunch of goofy names. What do you think that does psychologically to him? Because we know that, like I said, this kind of psychological tactic where you build someone up and then you kind of pick at them. Manny Pacquiao has spent the last 5 weeks building Errol Spence up, and now come the ego jabs. They're not direct. They're not 2021 social media kind of Jake Paul thing where you're all shouting and whatnot. This is subtle. This is old school games. Yeah? Old school. Super old school. It just depends how well this psyop has worked against Errol Spence. If he's headstrong, if he sticks to his game plan, if he comes to run, he comes to run. Now, to be fair, I'm not sure how well he can execute that, because I've never really seen Errol Spence be an out-and-out runner like Mayweather as such. He's never... Show me a fight where you've seen Errol Spence just completely outbox someone. I've never really seen it, so even that's questionable. But the fact of the matter is, Manny Pacquiao's best chance is if Spence comes steaming forward, which is what I believe Manny Pacquiao's psychological operation has been made to do. Spend X amount of weeks building Spence up, telling him how young he is, telling him how strong he is, telling him how old I am. And then, the last few weeks, start dropping things in there like, oh yeah, well, the toe-to-toe favours me. Because think about it. You've just been told, well, we all know how old Pacquiao is. We all know how fresh Spence is. We all know how iron sharpens iron. And now all of a sudden Pacquiao's saying that the toe-to-toe favours him. What would that do to your ego? The old man telling the press. And the thing, what makes this so potent, in my opinion, yeah, is the fact that Pacquiao wasn't saying this to Spence. Because if you address someone directly, then it's a lot easier to suspect, or it's a lot easier to kind of perceive it's a taunt. Yeah? If I'm sitting across the way from you and I tell you, oh, the toe-to-toe favours me, that's more of a direct shot, isn't it? That can be put off as trash talk. But if I'm just talking to the media and I say, yeah, well, we all know that the toe-to-toe favours me, and if I just slip it in there, not mention the opponent's name, but if I slip it in there and give some analysis, as Pacquiao did. Pacquiao said, yeah, well, we all know the toe-to-toe favours me because I've got the hand speed and I've got the power, and the way he said it, especially given how he's been softening Spence up over this last few weeks, it's perfectly pitched. Because, again, if Pacquiao came out from the jump and was talking about how much better he is and whatever else, that'd be obvious that it's just trash talk. Or it'd be obvious that he just wants Spence to do a certain thing. And in a way, I think Pacquiao's learnt from the Mayweather fight. If you remember, yeah, the Mayweather fight and the build-up, what happened in that build-up? Pacquiao didn't run those. To be honest with you, I don't think anyone could have got into Mayweather's head. He stayed running. And no one going to convince Mayweather to stand and fight. But, even so, Pacquiao, from the jump, what was he saying? He was saying Mayweather's going to run, wasn't it? He was out and out trash talking. What do you notice, though, about this fight? Now, you could argue Pacquiao's changed. I don't know. All I know is his approach to both of the fights have been different. In that Mayweather fight, him and Freddie Roach were saying, don't run, don't run. It was blatant. Now, all of a sudden, they spent the last X amount of time telling Spence how good he is and how young he is and how old. Do you know what I'm saying? It's been softening him up. And then, in the last day or two, it's kind of changed. The pace has changed. The direction has changed. Now, not directly, not in a taunting way, but now Pacquiao's saying that it's obvious the toe-to-toe favours him because of his hand speed and his power. And it's not sure that Spence is going to really want it there. He's not sure that Spence, the younger man, the lion sharpens lion, the iron sharpens iron. We're not sure if he's going to want it there. So we think more his game plan is going to be to avoid. Do you understand? Can you see how that can get into a fighter's head? And you've been told about how old Pacquiao is. Now all of a sudden, he's telling the fans that you're going to be the one to not want to be there. Is that the perception you want the fans to have after this fight, that you couldn't be somewhere as a younger, more ego-driven fighter? Do you want the fans, even if you win, if Spencer win, let's not forget, when Mayweather won, Mayweather was older than Pacquiao, so it's whatever. But does Spence really want to be known as the man who couldn't stop a 135-pound Mikey Garcia, and now not only couldn't stop Manny Pacquiao potentially, but even more worse, was afraid to meet Pacquiao somewhere, to meet Pacquiao in the place that he deems himself better at? Does Errol Spence want to be the man that avoided a 45-year-old man in a particular place? Or does Spence want to be the true daddy he talks about himself being? All I know is that what Pacquiao is saying here will certainly put questions in Errol Spence's head. No matter what his game plan is, the character of Errol Spence is going to be judged here for a fact. If he goes in there and avoids certain positions in the ring, he's going to be super scary. Now, of course, the LDBC will stay sucking him off no matter what, but true boxing fans will know what's good. So what Manny Pacquiao is doing here is perfect. Played perfectly. 3 weeks out. Just enough time. Especially when That sparring footage came out, meaning that people are already questioning Errol Spence. Oh, Errol Spence, is he looking fresh? Oh, Errol Spence, he looking bad? He down bad? Which puts even more pressure on Spence now to come out and show something. If Spence comes out and he's all scary, and he boxes scary and he wins on a goofy decision, people are going to say, yeah, Spence down bad. We saw him get... It's no surprise he ran from Pacquiao, because he got whooped in sparring. And one of the key lines I'd love Pacquiao to use would be, in one of his next things, he should say something along the lines of, yeah, well, it's obvious Spence shouldn't fight me on the inside. We saw the footage and we know that he's not best suited there. Yeah, we know that people get we know it's possible for people to get the better of Spence on the inside, so it's best he kind of stays away from that position, because if his sparring partner's getting the best of him, we know that one of the greatest of all time is going to get the best of him. That line right there will end Spence. Spence is going to come forward like a bull. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, man. Would I bet my life that Pacquiao can beat Spence in a toe-to-toe war? No. I wouldn't bet my life. I told you before, I'm going to put some money on it, full stop. But I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, man, and tell you that I'd bet my life on Pacquiao winning, full stop. Pacquiao's best chance is a toe-to-toe, but it's still a close fight, if that makes sense. Because no matter how much better Pacquiao may be on the inside, Spence, that age ain't no joke. That said, certainly it's Pacquiao's best chance. Pacquiao now needs to keep using these psychological edges, because if Spence does come to survive, it's going to be a boring fight. And Pacquiao's going to have close to no chance, unless he adopts the Alvarez way of doing things. Maybe Pacquiao's going to come in for this fight, his last fight, and cut the ring off. Then again, Spence, like I said, Spence isn't that great at dancing around anyway, to be fair. I haven't really seen it from him. Then again, you never know, he may learn some new tricks. Although, in all fairness to Spence, that sparring we saw, he was pretty active. He weren't running a whole load. End of the day, Pacquiao, keep psychologically digging at Spence these last few weeks. Get in his head. No doubt. And just before I go, last thing I want to pick up on is the actual language he uses. He says, we have a strategy that we know how to use against a southpaw. He wants to fight toe-to-toe, and that's going to be to my advantage. We're prepared for anything. If he wants to use his reach instead, we are ready. See, what that does is, this is even deeper psychologically than I expected, because this for me is like almost using reverse psychology. Oh, he wants to fight toe-to-toe. Of course he must do. Of course the younger, stronger man. Of course the man who I've been telling is younger and stronger wants to fight toe-to-toe. Of course he does. So what this does is, if Spence is training to run around... Yeah. Do you see what I'm trying to say? If Spence is training to run around, and he hears Pacquiao saying, oh, of course he wants to... Of course the younger, stronger man wants to fight toe-to-toe, doesn't he? It's almost questioning Spence's integrity, or questioning Spence's manhood, bottom line. How can the younger, stronger man not want to fight toe-to-toe? Of course he does. He wants to fight toe-to-toe. So for sure, either way you look at this, it's essentially trying to leave Spence no options. Or, better yet, to guide Spence to the option that Pacquiao wants, which is a toe-to-toe fight.